He's got a voice like solid gold and a twinkle in his eye. And keeping that eye firmly placed on our parliamentarian buddies is Tony Amos. We welcome Tony and the weekly political roundup.
Tony Amos, good to see you, Tony.
Good to see you too, Jared. Good to see you. It's all good.
Getting cold, Tony? Got your woolies on?
It's a bit chilly. We're into winter now, Jared. It's good, isn't it,
Really
eh? I quite like the seasonal change. We're lucky in New Zealand. We really are. We have summer, autumn, winter, spring. It's a lovely cycle, and we move through it pretty well. Of course, if you're lucky enough to be in the South Island, you're copping it a bit more than the North Island, but they are the breaks. That's how it comes down.
We always start off with a buzz, Tony.
Oh, yes, Jared, the buzz. It's been established that the consumption of alcohol is the leading cause of those inexplicable carpet burns on your forehead. That's the buzz.
What's happening on the carpet down there in Parliament, Tony?
Our weekly look at politics, our weekly look at the oddballs and misfits, the sooks and the crooks, the rooters and looters of public office we proudly call our politicians.
And what are they up to, Tony?
Well, Jared, much of the same. You know, the global woes continue, particularly the Euro woes. Greece is still urinating across Europe, but there are the Euro woes do continue because Greece is in Stung. Spain's in a bit of Stung as well. Interesting to look at the world, the global fiscal situation. You know, America in the last 12 months had growth of about 1.9%. In the UK it was about zero. Here it was about zero. But in Australia, growth was 4.3%. Pretty impressive. Of course, the mining boom is part of that growth, but the management of that economy as well. You know, it seems to be working well for the Australians. It's okay for us. It's a bit tough in Europe. But I noted in Ireland, they no longer have the punt. You know, they had the punt or the punt as their currency.
How did you spell it?
P-U-N-T.
Oh, it was called the punt.
It was called the punt or the punt, whichever pronunciation you like. I call it the punt because it hasn't been the official currency for about 10 years since the euro was introduced there. But there's a wee village in Clones near the border, and they've taken a promotion on hand, and they're taking people's punts. So people are getting home and shaking the piggy banks, shaking the punts out, going into Clones, exchanging the punts for shopping vouchers, and it's given the village a bit of a retail boom. And of course the village is making money okay because it can then on-sell those, or redeem if you like, those same punts with the Irish bank. So it's working really well for everybody.
Funny name, isn't it, Tony? Why would the Irish call their currency the punt?
The punt? Quite simple, Gerald. It rhymes with Minister of Finance.
Well, we couldn't do that in New Zealand, could we?
No, well, there's a few punts around the Parliament. At least they take a few punts, you know, but sadly the last punt they took didn't pay off. That was around the tax cut, the tax changes. In October last year, you know, the our Minister of Finance, the double-dipping dipstick from Dipton, Bill English, he gave us a budgetary forecast that's now $1 billion short. So that's from October to now, and he miscalculated it, not just him, of course, but Treasury and Cabinet as well, miscalculated by $1 billion. And that tells us a lot about why they're so frantic about cost-cutting and savings, etc. You know, and this current row between the electorate, between the people of New Zealand and the government about class sizes, education cuts, Heke Parata, didn't read the electorate at all, just went in boldly and stupidly and tried to do this, and it's caused an uproar. I mean, the government's taking a hammering now because of that. The government will back down because there's a much bigger voice than the government involved here, and that is the voice of the people, and the people will win. And Jared, just a wee aside to the Heke Parata story, you know, Heke Parata is married to a guy called Wera Gardner. Wera Gardner used to be married to Pauline Gardner. She was a Member of Parliament as well, so he's maybe the only man in New Zealand who's been married to 2 Members of Parliament. Some would say he's a slow learner.
That's like climbing Everest, isn't it?
Well, he got a knighthood too, so maybe it is, Jared. Maybe it is. And of course, Shonky Jonky, our Prime Minister Shonky Jonky, he's been away in London. He went to London to visit the Queen and had a jolly good time as well. You know, what a grand occasion to be at. Of course, a grand occasion, the Diamond Jubilee of Queen Elizabeth. Her Majesty, 60 years on the throne, longer than Elvis, but quite a remarkable event, isn't it, eh? It's a remarkable achievement and a remarkable event. Here's the woman who leads the Commonwealth, also leads the world's most famous dysfunctional family, and yet there she is, keeping her act together and doing it jolly well.
Hear, hear to the Queen.
Hear, hear. And she said, where?
Well, I'm concerned, Tony, you've missed out on a knighthood again.
Outrageous, isn't it, eh? Absolutely outrageous. You know, I think knighthoods are silly. I think, you know, people say, oh, you know, we're past that, and then they take them. You know, I mean, and a good example of this is one-time Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Michael Cullen, lingus to his mates, who was part of the government. He was Deputy Prime Minister of our government when they decided to abolish knighthoods. So they abolished knighthoods, and guess what? Lingus just accepted one. So there's some good political hypocrisy, and I've got to say I wasn't surprised at all at Michael Cullen in that regard. It's part of how I've sort of viewed the fellow anyway.
So he would have wrestled his conscience. He would have really wrestled with that one, wouldn't he?
Conscience? Yeah. Talking about an ex-politician here, Gerard, I don't know that the word conscience is part of that vocabulary.
Well, Jody, what about our list MPs? What have they been up to in the last couple of weeks?
The dreaded list MPs, the members of Parliament that nobody voted for, but they're there for a good reason. Always a good story. This particular story is about a list MP on a flight from Auckland to Sydney, going off to a conference. It happens that sitting beside him is one of those fundamentalist preachers, you know, a strict man of the cloth. Anyway, flight takes off, seatbelt sign comes off, flight attendant comes around offering drinks, and the list MP said, he said, I'll have a scotch and soda, please. And the attendant said, certainly, gave him a scotch and soda, and then turned to the preacher beside the list MP and said, what would you like, sir? And he said, I'm appalled. I'd much rather be tied up, beaten and abused by women of ill repute than let liquor pass my lips. Well, the list MP handed his drink back. He said, I'll have one of those too. I didn't know we had a choice. That's politics.
Thank you.